Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Big League Breakdowns. Today, we are going to break down the trade deadline and all the possible moves, the suitors, the sellers, the big names. We will get into all that. My name is Tyler, your host, my co-host for this one, Bobby and Will. John on vacation. How dare he take a vacation on trade deadline week? Um,
He just left so we could talk as much crap about the Orioles and sell everyone on that team,
yeah, that
Yeah,
is that's possible.
he's losing
Um,
except
Cedric,
Felix
man. I'm
Bautista,
I'm
who's on the
buying it
IL.
more. Yep, that's it.
yeah, man. I still like can't believe the Orioles are where they're at. But regardless, a lot of other teams to talk about in this one. Maybe the Orioles come up, we'll see. But this should be another interesting deadline. A lot of bigger names, I would say, are kind of floating around right now. In terms of like guys at the beginning of the season, you would not think were on would be on the what am I trying to say? The trade block.
The
But
block.
here we are, and I think that's where I want to start really first is, last year when we talked about the trade deadline, I said I think the Blue Jays are the biggest chip, right? Because they had an expiring contract with Vladdy. Bo Bichette had really struggled last year. Ultimately, nothing happened, and actually, they're having a great year this year. But I would say this year, looking at the league as the league as a whole, I think the Pirates and the Guardians are kind of your biggest chips this year, just because of what they kind of have to offer and give up, and what they're at least willing to listen to as well. It's a little bit surprising with the Guardians, given the success that they had last year. Of course, this year a lot more disappointing, but names like Emmanuel Clase and Stephen Kwan out there for the Pirates. Of course, Mitch Keller, Brian Hayes has been talked about. O'Neill Cruz, although I think that's pretty unlikely. But Will, I think, as bad as the Pirates are, they do have some intriguing pieces, and I think again the Guardians with the what they're potentially offering up in the bullpen, the rumors surrounding Kwan, like I do think, in my opinion, they have the um maybe the most pull in this deadline.
Well, what's interesting is the reason why they are interesting is because of team control that teams would get should they get trade for said players, and that's the main difference out of the rest of the market. I mean, from a closing standpoint, the real people out there, I guess, that are on expiring contracts are Helsley's the biggest one, and I guess Iglesias for the Braves. Funny enough to say the Braves are sellers, but believe it or not, I don't think there's really anything else that they can be. Um, and so therefore, with like the Guardians class A, you would have for one guaranteed year, but then you have two team options that you'd have to blow up for you not to take. And Bednar for the Pirates also has at least one, if not 2 years of team control after this year. And I mean, everyone else that's basically been mentioned in general with both teams are about the control. And sometimes, uh, and I feel like I don't even want to say sometimes, I feel like when you have a team like the Yankees or a team like the Dodgers or another team that at that moment just has the prospects that they can trade for the rentals because they feel like this is the year, then they're going to be big on the big name rentals. But for a lot of other people, especially nowadays, it's not just now who can we give up to go all at it this year. It's who can we give up so that we can go at it this year, but still be in a good position the next couple years. And so that's where like the Phillies come into play, or the Cubs, or the Padres, as they look for players. And so that's why I think in the end, there's probably gonna I see it more likely that Bednar gets traded over Class A, but I can see it where Dodgers, Phillies, or Yankees just the fact that Class A is even out there, and suddenly it's just all right. What is it that is there anything possible that we could do to get him? And if we can, we need to pull the trigger.
Yeah, I think that I mean it's interesting from the Guardians standpoint because they're still only 3 games out of the AL wildcard. And again, given the success that they had last year, we knew coming into the year that their offense was going to struggle because last year their offense wasn't that great on paper either, and then they lose their best player on offense. So you kind of knew that that was going to be a struggle for them this year, and it is proving to be the case. All that being said, though, they're still in the race. So I don't know. To me, like hearing the rumors about Stephen Kwan potentially being traded and stuff like that, like you better be getting a very, very nice package back where if you really feel like you can't or you're not going to be able to make a run this year and it's not worth it and it is worth, to trading these guys, that's great and all, but I think they should be cautious. I just think they're the biggest chip because of the rumors swirling around them. But I don't think this is a spot if you're the Guardians where you kind of, not blow everything up, but like you kind of get rid of these guys that you can build around like Quan and I mean Clase such a great reliever for them. I mean, he almost won the Cy Young last year, so like
Mhm.
getting rid of a guy like that just because like you're kind of middling this year
Mhm.
feels a little bit unnecessary, but on the Pirates side, I think you know, they're gonna sell. That's the Pirates way. So yeah,
I
interesting.
mean, I
But
will say that so for the Guardians, to me, they're a club that's very similar to like the Rays and the Brewers in that they will make trades at times to get rid of players when they are at fairly high value. And what ends up feeling like, why would you dump said player, that turns into um, using that resource to help fill out some other holes. I think that even while the Guardians right now are only a few games back in the wild card, they're currently a 500 team, and I don't see that changing. They just have such a middling offense that they would need some drastic change to that to even have a shot at making the postseason. And if they were to trade Class A, they could easily move Smith into the closing role, given that he's only in his sophomore year right now and was phenomenal in his rookie year. So he could be the guy they choose to kind of build around after this year. And then Class A could be the guy that brings in an offensive piece or two, one that could have helped now and another that could help in the future for this team to then be at least have enough offense to really get into the postseason.
yeah, I mean it's tough because I think that is there for a guy like him, right, that has so much value, like it is a closer after all. And while closures are very important, if your offense is struggling, like theirs has, it doesn't really matter if you have a great closer. But in the same breath, he's one of the best relief pitchers in the league, and he's still under team control. He has two club options in 27, 28, for 10 million, but like he's still, I mean, this year he's making five. Next year he'll be making 6.4. And it's like you're getting a premier back end arm for pretty cheap. And you have him under contract till he's 30 years old. So I understand like maybe wanting to move that. I just feel like yeah, move him and get prospects in other positions. Um, I just feel like it's kind of an overstep. Again, with him and Quan, like I feel like that's not the move. I think if you're a team
I'm a
like
little less likely on Quan.
yeah, and maybe Quan only came up because of the Phillies rumor, and the Phillies do have like the Phillies would try to package to get one of the relievers, and then at that point they'd be giving up a lot. So maybe that's why that comes up, but I'm not sure. I think for a team like the Pirates, it's a lot more, clear of what the intention is. This year has been bad. It's been worse than expected from the ownership standpoint and the management. I think from the fans standpoint, we kind of expected regression, maybe not this hard, but they have a lot that teams should like, right? Like Mitch Keller is a great piece. I think he's probably up there as like one of the top if not the top like arms out there in terms of trade rumors right now. Um
Definitely because of control.
yeah, it's because of that. Bednar, of course, like another same situation because he has control. He really struggled last year and the beginning of this year, but now he seems back on track. Um You got guys like IKF, like not sure what they're going to do with him. Brian
Mhm.
Hayes doesn't seem like he's the answer anymore. Brian Reynolds doesn't look great, and maybe they're trying to dump that contract. So the Pirates have a lot swirling around. What they'll actually do, I don't know. But I think all those guys, and this is the sad reality, is I think that like the Pirates are just not good at developing hitters at all. They haven't been for so long. And these guys like Brian Hayes, who is the probably the best defensive third baseman in the league right now, if he was able to bat, he'd be a superstar. And I think if he goes to another team, he's very intriguing. Like I know the Yankees were potentially in on him. The Yankees also in on Suarez. Like they're really looking to upgrade. So I think that there is a nice price that they'll get back for these guys. It's just I think the Pirates, it's just Bob Nutting wants to reduce payroll for next year, which I don't know how you could reduce it any more than it already is. But the fact that they're even shopping, like, or at least listening to offers on O'Neal Cruz is crazy. Like, I mean, Will, I know like there is some intriguing pieces for you that you would like to see, on the Phillies. So, just what is your take on the Pirates at this deadline overall?
Well, my main thing with the Pirates is I know you said that they took a step back without a doubt when they had been like the exact same record the last two seasons. But how much of it at this point is really just the team regressed versus they just are getting kind of sick of their playing environment? I mean, I'm
Could be.
Skeens is the only one that you can say is not regressing. But I mean, there's a point where you want like where if you're happy with your environment, everything just seems better, and if you hate it, then everything is worse. Like I know they switched up the whole manager situation, but it's clearly just the ownership. Like, do you actually think, regardless of what you think the Pirates will do selling or trading wise, they really have taken that step back, or do you think it's just more of at this point it's another this was another off season of nutting and whatever that they've done nothing to bring in new talent. They've shown no willingness to do anything to actually better the organization's future. And then a lot of the players' mindsets, they just don't like going to work. And so therefore it's just that's why they've taken the step back, less so about their abilities.
I think that's a double-edged sword because I think in some
Yeah,
ways
one for the GM and one for the owner.
I think in some ways you can look at um you can look at the offseason and yes, there's definitely gripes like and maybe players are kind of upset that there isn't more money being spent where to bring in more talent. But it's kind of undeniable that, for a while it was like, all right, Brian Reynolds, they locked into a long-term contract. Brian Hayes, they locked into a long-term contract. They kind of thought that those guys were going to be the cornerstones. And again, as good as Hayes is defensively, for a team that can't hit, he's not great. But I honestly like on a team like the Yankees, he'd be perfect because he doesn't. I mean, he needs to improve batting wise, right? But like, he doesn't need to be
He'd
this
die, Neil.
great. He doesn't need to be this great player. When there's other talent around you, but I think it's really bad when you look at the Pirates because it's like, okay, yes, this team doesn't spend money and stuff like that, but also the guys that they kind of are relying on to be the future are are regressing and you know now you have guys that are getting older, right? Like that's the thing about a rebuild is like it's nice to keep guys like Brian Reynolds around because like you think, all right, once the team gets good, he's going to be a key piece for us. But now like you look and it's like, all right, one of the Pirates actually going to be contenders when he's like 35, 36. Like is it worth keeping him around and stuff like that? So I think basically to answer your question, I think it's a little bit of both, but it's the development of hitters in this organization has always been a problem, and it's really like showing itself this year, and that's really a big reason why. But look, the Pirates are always, it seems like now recently I've had great pitchers, and I think like that's also what's going to bring in a lot of if they do anything at the deadline, that's going to bring in a lot of nice prospects. Bednar, I think, is going to get moved. It
Mhm.
might be the Phillies. I think Keller is going to get moved. Um, As for like the fielders, I'm not sure, but those are big pieces. Like Bednar could definitely help a bullpen in a big way, especially the
Mhm,
Phillies. So,
mhm.
you
I
know,
mean, the two pieces that aren't rentals, 1 year rentals, that I feel like could get traded or arguably I think should be traded given the Pirate situation is Bednar and Hayes. Because Hayes has kind of proven that he's not the hitter that they want him to be. So you can move him to it. I was thinking a team like the Mariners who are looking for corner infielders. They could take a Brian Hayes, but as you said, the Yankees. I know the Cubs are also looking for a potential third base looks, but that might be more. They would probably want more of a rental in like Suarez, so then next year they could go back to Shaw. But when you're not competing, you don't really need a closer. So Bednar is a very expendable person in the Pirate situation right now. Keller is a little bit more interesting because I still feel like he's still under team control for 3 more years.
I believe so.
So
Yeah,
he's the type of player where the Pirates, if someone dangled a good enough offer in front of them, they could do it. But I don't feel like they should really try or do anything on their end to really push a trade. Just if it happens, it happens. Leave it at that. And that's my transition, Bobby, into now should I just give him my trade for why
I'm begging you to do so right
because
now.
last episode I said that I had thought of a trade that uh seems really, really weird and under certain mindsets would make a lot of sense. Unfortunately for the Pirates, it won't. But it should. But the idea is all right, you're trading Mitch Keller. You want to trade him to a team that you need to do the split screen, Bobby, so that we can get Tyler's reaction. But
Oh, yes, you are 100% right about that.
we need to do the so it was Mitch Keller is being traded to a team, and it needs to be a team that is looking for uh a pitcher that can have some control with. And so the first team I thought of, who is also there's an interesting player that they are shipping supposedly, and I kind of get, kind of don't. But my first thought was, what if you made a marriage with Boston? You sent Mitch Keller to Boston for Jaron Duran, maybe throwing a prospect in there to balance it out. But
I
you're
would.
trading. I mean, Duran's coming off of last year having his like a very all-star, arguably in many ways, even MVP like season. Whereas the rest of his career, he's been like a 280s hitter, not very big power wise. And this year, his average has dropped off. But he's still under team control, I think, for like 2 or 3 years,
And how
supposedly.
he's still like, how old is he? Like,
He's younger side, probably like
30?
27, 28,
Yeah,
I feel like.
yeah.
Um, and then you have Mitch Keller, who has had times with the Pirates where he's been top of the rotation material. He just hasn't always been able to hold it for an entire season. But he's always been a very effective number three pitcher without a doubt. So Jaron Duran for Mitch Keller, and because I don't know the Pirates or Red Sox minor league system, we'll just say it straight up, so I don't have to think about it.
I mean,
And then
look,
Duran helps you fill your outfield hole that
yeah.
you
I
always
mean,
have. And
here's
then
the
that
thing.
also means the Pirates should actually try, because prior to this year, I would have said, given the way Skeens was up, and if they made one or two reasonable enough moves, they would have been maybe a couple years away from competing from a wild card spot.
Yeah, I think that if you're the Pirates, and I guess this isn't their mindset because you look at their draft, and I know the MLB draft's a little bit different. You kind of take best player available, but the first like however many rounds, all pitchers. Like the Pirates don't need pitchers. They have that. So I'm fine. Like as much as I love Mitch Keller, and Mitch Keller's a great story because at least from a Pirates perspective, he was a second round pick for us. He was somebody that we had high hopes for. And for a while, I'll say it, he was the worst pitcher in the league, not even close. And he ironed it out. He's an all-star level pitcher now, and it's awesome to see, and it's great. Like he's been with us our whole career. As much as I love it though, like we need to get rid of pitchers that aren't named Paul Skeens and Jared Jones. We have guys in the minors that are gonna come up, potentially Bubba Chandler. So like we have pitchers. We need hitters. So a trade like that I would take in a heartbeat. Even if it was straight up. I would do that. I think again the Pirates are gonna look for guys that are under control. They're gonna look for guys that are cheap. So I don't know, but I mean, as far as Keller, I think he's going to be great for anybody. I know the Blue Jays were big on him, and I actually think the Red Sox were a rumored destination as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, Keller, he's 29 this year. He's got 3 years left on his deal at 16.9, and then it goes up to 20 in
Yeah,
2028.
Red Sox
But
can afford it.
yeah, like, and honestly, for what the market is now, you're getting a pretty good pitcher for the price tag, which I know is crazy. 16 million is like wow, but like in this day and age, like he's a good pitcher for that price, and I think that he'll honestly get moved. I guess let's move on to the other big free agent in the batting side, which is Eugenio Suarez and
No.
potentially Josh Naylor. We want to talk about the Diamondbacks here because they could also be big chips in this. I think that any board you really look at right now, Suarez is the top guy. I think it's almost without a doubt he's getting moved because of how the Diamondbacks have been this year, and I don't think his value could get any higher. So I mean, well, I think it's easy to say like a team like the Mariners could be in on him because we always love to give
Mhm.
Mariners corner infielders or the Yankees, but it's pretty safe to say that he's going to get moved.
Yeah, this one I think is going to be more of a heavy hitter, and I think it's probably going to come down to the Yankees or the Cubs. Though I feel like a dark horse team are the Tigers, just because the Tigers, I feel like anyone that's out there that has is a big can have a big impact, they could grab just because they have the minor league prospects that they could trade for virtually anyone because they have what 6, 7, 8 guys or something in the top 100. Um,
Yeah.
prospects list. So Gino is someone that I absolutely think is going to be dealt. The Cubs are the team that I feel like are probably, to me, gonna be the one. It's funny because I realize the more I think about it, I've always the Yankees I know are always up, but in my head I'm like, I don't know why. I just feel like in my mind every team has a gripe against the Yankees and they don't want to make a deal with them. But but I guess the Diamondbacks could say that about a National League team with the Cubs. But anyway, I just feel like the Cubs right now, given how their season started and how their division is slowly slipping away, that they're getting a little angry now and a little more anxious where they want to buy a seller. And they really need a seller just because, like I said earlier, they have Shaw. Shaw is the long term answer. But given that they have Tucker guaranteed for this season, they might as well go all out with Tucker doing what he usually does, Pete Crow Armstrong exploding into the MVP caliber player he is, Seiya Suzuki having a career year. But they Cubs are also a team that will need to then fill out their roster with pitching. As for the other name with the Diamondbacks, Naylor, um, an interesting location that I've thought about that he could go to, though I don't think it probably will because it's in division, is the Padres. Because I've been curious if the Padres would consider trading Luis Ariz, just because Ariz has been fine, but he's not he hasn't been the 300 average player that he has been, and his defense isn't the greatest. And the Padres are like 25th in baseball or something in like home runs, and they're 20th in run score. Like their offense is not the greatest. It's their pitching that's doing it for them. So if they could get someone like Naylor to play first base, that'd be a huge boost to the lineup that already has Machado performing really well and Tatis and Merrill.
What about a team like the Astros? Just because of the news today about Paredes being out with that
Are you saying
injury.
as a third baseman thing or just any
Yeah,
big
yeah,
bat sort of thing?
for Suarez. Sorry, I should have prefaced. Yeah, for Suarez
I
because
mean,
Paredes is now out long term, and I feel like they're going to be looking at third base at this deadline now.
I guess the thing for me, which is my question now with the Astros, is that how much do the Astros really have anymore in the way of trade chips?
Yeah.
Like they've kind of, I feel like we've reached the point where they've expended a lot of their prospects to because either they've traded them away or the fact that they had their run winning divisions, getting to the World Series, that they just weren't drafting as high. Plus, they had a few years of not or whatever it was of not drafting in like the first 5 rounds or something as punishment for the whole scandal. But I feel like we've kind of just reached the point where I don't really see in their system how much they really have to offer. So yes, I see Suarez as a potential target for them given Paredes' injury, but I feel like there's too many teams above them that would offer better deals than what the Astros could give.
Yeah, I guess that was the thing too, right? Because like if he is the biggest trade piece, you're gonna have offers that are probably gonna trump what the Astros can give. So that's probably potential. But yeah, I mean Naylor's a little bit interesting, I guess, because they just got him this year, but um also because he's on the last year of his
Yeah, I believe
contract.
he's a free agent
Yeah.
after this year.
So
So it's
it makes sense in that way, but it's just a little bit weird because I don't know, you had that guy in Christian Walker for so long, and then they traded for Naylor, and we were like really excited about that. We're like, wow, it's a great signing. The Diamondbacks seemed like they were on the up and up. They get Burns. They were starting to, they put a good roster together. They're starting to pay players, and then like for him now to be up is a little bit interesting. But yeah, I mean, again, a team like Seattle, of course, could use a guy like him, and I don't know, like I think Suarez is gone, but like I feel like Naylor's probably 50-50. But the other question is like if he actually gets if they don't trade him, do you think he resigns with them?
Naylor, you're saying?
Yeah,
No.
yeah. That I guess, and
My
maybe
money
that.
would be on the team that would go after him are the Yankees.
Yeah, and maybe that's the whole thing, and maybe that's why they're looking to move him because they kind of feel like it's a lost cause. I don't know, but
They're in a situation where their offense has still been fantastic. They did nothing to fix the issue they had last year, and it got worse. So, I mean, they're still in a spot where if things took a slight step back next year, they would still
producer.
be in a decent spot. What?
Where I said sorry, producer. I'm like, why it's still on me? Sorry.
Oh, because your beautiful face.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Because anyway, he's not listening to us. All right. I'm gonna keep talking as Tyler's face is present. But anyway,
No, I
um,
lost my shortcut. You should see me
Oh,
scrambling over here.
oh, there we go. There it
anyway,
is.
that even if their offense took a little bit of a step back, they would still probably be top third, maybe slightly in the middle third
Oh,
of
so weird.
the National League offensively, but they're going to make other signings in the offseason and things will work out fine for them. Naylor is going to get a decent enough payday, I feel like, next year. Though it all depends, I guess, on what happens with Pete Alonso if Lonzo, which he probably will, back out of his contract with the Mets.
Yeah, because I mean, he wants to. Yeah, Alonso wants to see the open market to see how much money he can get. Let's talk about just the contenders as a whole. What teams we kind of expect to make moves. We kind of alluded to some
Yankees.
already. I mean, Yankees are going to make a move. Man, that the AL East. I kind of want to target them at this point right now because I wanted to talk about the Blue Jays, and honestly, I think the Blue Jays probably deserve their own video from us because what they've done since like June 1st is crazy. They've taken over that division. The series with the Yankees, they win that series, and the Yankees made all those errors, and there was the beef on Twitter with the Blue Jays account and stuff like that. So this division is interesting. You know that the Yankees are going to add in some capacity. Suarez, again, somebody we thought. But do you see them going after like anybody else, maybe on the pitching side or maybe another big bat?
I just have to clarify. We're talking about the Yankees or the Blue
Yes,
Jays?
the Yankees, the Yankees.
Yankees are probably feeling a lot of panic because this is still the year that they chose not, well, I shouldn't say chose, but Soto didn't re-sign with them. And so everything in this season is under a microscope because you didn't get Soto. But I mean, I like to think that everyone secretly doesn't like the Yankees enough that they're all talking behind the scenes and they're agreeing we're not going to trade with the Yankees. We want to watch them collapse and cry when they
Fucking love that
just
idea.
missed October. So I'm okay with this whole giant conspiracy. I'll I'll drink the Kool-Aid on that one. But I mean, the Yankees have to get something at third base, even if it's some giant flyer of a player like Luis Ariz or someone from the Athletics, just because what they have isn't great. But I almost think they should just gear up on as much pitching as possible, both starting and relief, and just hope that Judge can kind of carry you, or some of the other guys get hot at the right time. I mean, they've always built their team around Judge, so I feel like Suarez is definitely going to be their one guy, and if they miss out on Suarez, then they got to pivot like they did with Soto and have a plan B that is just like trading for three players instead of one.
Yeah, I wonder. I guess my question is with the Yankees, like if Suarez is their biggest like target, and obviously like third base is the need for them, right? Like I wonder what that package back to Arizona looks like. Obviously you're gonna have a lot of like top prospects and stuff like that, but like I I mean, would they like give up Dominguez in that deal? Like I
Well,
don't
so
know.
the thing
Like
that's interesting about that is because you saying prospect, immediately thinking about how hot Spencer Jones has been right now in the minors for them, because he's hit like 13 home runs in his last like 19 games in AAA or something. So he is on fire. The question just then becomes, are they gonna keep him in the minors because he's kind of roadblock at the moment, or would they move someone to bring him up, or is he gonna be the guy that they trade, which seems crazy. Um, but I think it's possible the Yankees, if they hit the panic button a little early, maybe. But I mean, right now their outfield situation is Grisham just kind of the everyday center fielder. Is he platooning?
so he's been the everyday, yeah. Because my other question was what I mean, outside of third base, do they address anything else on the offensive side, or is it third base and pitching? I think that's probably the answer. Like,
That's the
especially
answer I
if
would go
I
with.
mean, if they're going after Suarez and they get him, they're not getting anybody else in the field.
Mhm.
But if they, like you
I mean,
said, maybe they,
their outfield situation right now. It's They have Bellinger, or who can play the outfield. Let me preface that. Bellinger, Dominguez, Grisham, and Judge.
yeah.
Uh, is Bellinger still kind of in that like bounce around, play a bunch of different areas type of thing, or is he kind of the left fielder and Dominguez is the one that's popping in and out?
Yeah, I think it's more of that, and I think they were platooning for a little bit, but yeah, I feel like
Because my answer would be is I'd almost think ideally for them, not knowing again what else is in the system, they would want to keep Dominguez and Jones. But if they have to give up one of them, you do have an outfield situation to get you through the rest of the season, even if you didn't call Jones up right away, or you called Jones up and he wasn't quite carrying what he did in the minors. The question just then pivots to, would the Diamondbacks be interested in an outfielder? Because right now they have, I guess Carroll is, was it Carroll, McCarthy are basically the outfielders, and I only say that because Gurriel, I've heard, also has some there's some trade interest there with him, and I think if he's not on the end of a contract, he has like one more year. But
yeah.
so there's that too.
I mean, Dominguez is interesting to me because for a while he was like not only the Yankees' big prospect, but like the prospect in baseball. And
I mean,
I
he's a rookie
think,
too, so
yeah, but I mean, he doesn't have the hype that he once had. And I think, and maybe it's the pressure of playing in New York, but I think a lot of Yankees fans are like not as hopeful as they once were for him. So I almost feel like they're kind of okay with moving on from him if they're bringing in a big enough player. I don't know if Suarez, who's 34, is that guy that they'd be willing to do that. Um, or if it's like I even like thought about like Brian Hayes, like if they do that, but I don't think Brian Hayes is a
no,
big enough player for them to do that. So I feel like
yeah.
if they brought in a third baseman that was like under contract and somewhat young, I think they would maybe consider Dominguez. I just don't know. I'm really curious, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is I'm really curious what Suarez is going to garner, really, because like you have so many big teams in the mix for him that like I might end up just being best offer, and I just wonder how far teams go with
Well,
that.
here's my next thing I thought
Yeah.
of is what are the odds the Blue Jays would be the team that goes after Suarez?
Yeah, I
Are they
mean,
still kind of buffering at third right now, and it's just Clement?
yeah, but I think they're more looking at pitching. I like so I was gonna go to them in a sec because I think Mitch Keller,
Boom,
this
there's
is a
your
spot.
transition.
Yeah, that was great by you. This is a spot where Mitch Keller has kind of been talked about, and I think again their biggest thing right now, and it's so funny because like it's so funny how things change in the league, and it's obvious what I'm saying, but like God, at the beginning of the year it was like wow their pitching's good, but their lineup, I don't know about that. Now it's a deadline. It's like all right, they need pitching, which is weird, but yeah, I think Mitch Keller is somebody I mean I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that they maybe go after a guy like Suarez. I don't know that they can match the prospects that that other teams can because Toronto doesn't have a great farm system. That would be my only thing. So I don't think they can match a Yankees or even Tigers if the Tigers are in there. So I think
No
it's
one
more
matches the
likely,
Tigers.
yeah, and I think it's more likely for them that they go after a pitcher. Now they are going after maybe the best on the market pitcher, but I think that fit makes sense. So I would see them more going to that. I was actually going to transition to the Cubs because I think the Cubs
Oh,
are they're the other team that needs a third baseman, right? And they also need pitching as well. But I mean, I feel like Suarez could be a play there. If not, like I wonder if they go after a guy like Ryan McMahon. I don't really know. Mitch Keller has been rumored there. I would be a little bit surprised if the Pirates trade in division, but I guess it's not
mhm.
impossible. But I mean, what is your take on the Cubs? Because obviously they've had a good year, and we keep talking about it too, because it's like they have Tucker for this year, so at least, and I think
Mhm.
there's a good chance they get him back, but you never know. So I feel like they're gonna
Yeah.
want to go all out.
Yeah, no, I think that Suarez is going to be their big ticket. And if that doesn't work out, then I they might be another team that I think then just really pivot hard onto the pitching side of it. Because it's not like in their situation they don't have a third baseman, and the third baseman that they have is the third baseman of the future in their eyes. Which is why when you said their backup could be a McMahon, yeah, Ryan McMahon trade, that's possible. Because he could platoon, but I mean, there's a lot of rentals out there, and even a couple starters that have some control.
Oh, we
And
got breaking news. Mariners acquired Josh Naylor. There it is.
all
Oh
right,
wow.
So
All right.
there we go.
so we got breaking news. Now I have to see, did I say what team I thought Naylor would go
I
to? I
think we
still think
said the Mariners. I mean, at least it felt
they
like,
were a team. So I had three teams listed that could be interested in Naylor, and one of them was the Mariners.
yeah.
So
Full
Interesting, man.
trade
Int-
details coming in from Jeff Passan.
all right,
Uh,
so now this.
l-
All right, so do I talk about? I'm not going to talk about the Cubs. Cubs, your old news.
yeah,
So what makes this
so
interesting
full.
now?
Well, real quick, I just want to read the full details of the trade, real quick, just so
Yeah,
we know what's up. So, left-hander Reyna Garcia and right-hander Ashton Izzy are headed back to the Diamondbacks from the Seattle Mariners for first baseman Josh Naylor. That is the full trade.
I don't know too much about those guys. I'm gonna be honest with you,
I'm
but
gonna look in the meantime.
yeah, like I wonder where they're at, and they're in the Mariner
Reyna
system.
Garcia is he just got called up from AAA,
Mm.
and Izzy Ashton Izzy is a high A prospect.
Yeah, I was wondering like what their rankings were in their system. Let me see. But I mean, that's the first chip down right there.
that is a
Um,
very big chip down. But yeah, no, the Mariners were looking for corner infielders. They definitely got one of them, and someone that is a great compliment to Cal Raleigh. So
yeah,
here on the surface, it seems like it's a great deal for the Mariners. It makes a lot of sense. Next question is just seeing how it translates in Seattle.
yeah. I'm trying to look too because I don't know if the MLB already updated their prospect rankings unless these guys are older and I'm like just absolutely bugging because I'm like I can't find these guys in top
MLB
prospects.
usually has it.
Yeah, that's what I'm on, and I'm
Uh,
like, did they already move him to So Izzy was the Mariners' 16th ranked prospect, and who was the other one? Martina? No, who was the other one?
It was Brandon Garcia. He was
Brandon
13. He was
13.
13.
Okay, yeah, I see that now. So, at least you get a guy that is, I guess, on the cusp at least of making it to the league. If they called him up, so he's 25. Izzy looks like he's 21. So, still room to grow there. But yeah. Oh yeah, baby, breaking news. I was kind of waiting for that. I had a feeling, and I checked,
You had your Tyler senses were tingling.
refreshed MLB trade rumors. Shout out MLB trade rumors.
Good.
And
You followed the thing I like.
yes, and I was like, wow, holy shit.
We're
Okay,
all big fans of trade rumors here.
the
They are
Diamondbacks.
prompt when it comes to breaking news.
Oh yeah.
I think
They're
I
on
first
that
learned
shit.
about him back in 2012 when the Hunter Pence deal was happening with the Phillies. Because like in the middle of the Phillies game, it was just refreshing the page constantly.
All right, well,
Twitter.
I mean, I thought, that's one of the big prospects. I mean, one of the big teams we talked about that we're gonna potentially move. So, that's pretty cool. But I guess
There's your short, Will.
going back to yeah, really,
I'm
going
not
back
gonna
to the
edit it
Cubs.
overnight. It's gonna be bad, but damn it, I
Yeah.
should.
I guess going back to the Cubs for a quick second, unless we wrapped up in them, I can't even remember now. I got completely
All right,
sidetracked.
Cubs. No, I said Cubs are old news and moved on to
Oh,
Naylor
okay.
and the
Oh,
Mariners.
yeah, sorry.
I think all I was saying though, because I'm also dead and don't know where I last left off exactly, was just simply that um they're gonna go in all pitching. I feel like if the deal doesn't work out with Suarez. I mean, they really, regardless of needing third base or not or whatever, pitching I still feel like to me is the biggest concern as a whole for the team. That was something that regardless of what the offense was doing long term, I had questions whether I thought the pitching would be enough to keep him going all the way to the World Series. So if they really want to make a push, then I feel like they just need to go heavy on the pitching trades. It also seems like now that if they want Suarez, they need to act fast because Dimebacks are selling.
Yeah.
But that's all I remember leaving off at. Move on. Pick a different team that I sound less awkward on.
Yeah, I'm gonna go to the team that maybe you're tired of talking about or not. It's your Phillies. I think we do need to.
We did a whole episode.
I know.
What do you want to know that you weren't here to listen to?
But for the people that are only watching this trade deadline episode,
I'll watch the other episode.
That
then come back.
Or they're gonna make a move in the bullpen.
Yes,
and they're gonna try to trade Kepler. I'm sure that's what you guys talked about yesterday.
Yep. We mentioned it. We
left.
probably talked less trade stuff in general. I feel like than you would have thought, and more state of the Phillies in the future.
I mean, we definitely made a stake in who we think the big targets that they could get.
Well, all right. So I'll give a short recap, just kind of what I'm thinking for the
Go
Phillies
watch the full
episode.
This is not your filler. There's not enough context here.
The David Robertson signing has me curious how much the Phillies would do in a single trade now. Before the signing, I would have said the Phillies' priority was to probably get a package deal that gave them 2 relievers that they could use in the back end. And then that would be kind of they justify dumping 1 or even 2 of their top prospects to get the ideal package. With the Robertson trade happening, I'm curious now if they'd be willing to go after the big fish versus a smaller package. The only reason I say that is, and I still feel like David Bednar in the end is probably the one person I feel like the Phillies are most likely to get. I would have said before the signing of Robertson that the Phillies would have tried to go after Santana and Bednar from the Pirates and bundle that up, and then that would be their back end move. But now that they have Robertson, I'm thinking they might then shift now and say, we'll go to the Guardians until the Guardians tell us to fuck off.
I guess
because
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I guess my question is, outside of who they might get and stuff like that, I was curious because so Passan put out an article on ESPN about the teams that are going to go big, and he has the Phillies as all in, with teams also like the Yankees, Cubs, Blue Jays, Mariners, and I wonder if that's still true. because we've kind of talked about the Phillies might be cautious at least in addressing the outfield situation, but for
Yes.
pitching, they're gonna be more aggressive. But I do
Yes.
agree. I think maybe yeah, you're right. They're probably not looking for two guys now as much as they were
Well,
before.
they still might go for two, or it might be on two separate teams now, and the other pitcher that's not a closer is lower stock. I mean, so the one thing to still keep in mind, I do understand that he's not eligible for the postseason, but they will be getting Alvarado back in August and have him for a month and a half. So regardless of, just for the sake of battling for what their seeding is in the postseason, he'll be a huge impact. And him on top of Robertson and Kirkering and Strom and imagining another close that they're going to have a very strong back end just in that. And then in the postseason, if you were to take out Alvarado, bullpens seem to be very cut and dry when it comes to the postseason. Like, if this is your back end people, this is your back end people for the entire series, every chance you get. And if you say the Phillies have four guys they were happy with, they would. I don't think there's really anything to stick your nose up at. But I think personally, I don't see the Phillies doing a big move in the outfield. If there's any type of move that happens, it's getting rid of Kepler so that Crawford comes up. But I
Yeah.
don't think they're in the end going to get Quan, the Neil Cruz thing, which is new to me today. That
I would
that I
hate.
don't think that's going to happen. That's another lefty in that case too, as is the Quan situation. I feel like they would want a right-hander if anything.
I would hate this, but this seems like such a Pirates move to do. Like, I honestly think the Pirates would like take Kepler for Bednar straight up, which I don't want that. But like,
No,
I could see them doing that. Um,
you might not get like a mill like Phillies any of their top five. You'd
yeah,
get probably
it's more of
middle.
it's more of like I guess the only drawback to that being a theory is that I don't know if Nutting wants to pay the rest of his salary for the rest of the year because it's like a bigger contract. But like
For
he,
Kepler or Bednar.
for oh wait, Kepler on a 1 year or 2 year?
Yes, no, it's a 1 year. He's
Okay,
a
yeah,
free agent, so it's
like
prorated to whatever these last 2 months
right.
are.
So
Also,
that's why I'm like, yeah, he might trade for a guy that's like, even though the contract's big, it is going to be prorated, and
Mhm.
they'll get a guy who's a rental to them just to like basically fill a spot in the outfield for them that
Mhm.
for him to then walk. I could honestly see that happening.
If we were to get Cruz in a
But
deal with you guys, then I feel like that would happen because we
yeah,
would need an outfielder to go, and so Kepler's the first one to go. Um, I've also thought about that if the Phillies did a deal with the Guardians, is they stick Kepler in that deal for whatever else they package up with Clase, and then this way, regardless if they get Quan or not, and then this way they could bring Crawford up. I've even thought of a situation where if they had to sweeten the deal, that the Phillies traded Castellanos to the Guardians as a team
mm,
that chooses to try to bolster their offense and still have 1 year of control. But I don't think the Phillies would do it in that case, even though it calls up Crawford, just because it would then really make the middle of the order look questionable right now with Bonehead.
yeah,
So, no, I think right now the Phillies first thing for the Phillies is going all out on the closer that they want, and Dombrowski has stated he wants a closer with control. So that means Bednar and Clase are picks 1 and 2. A fallback option if neither of those work out, where I guess if they get one of them and they still want to do more, would be Helsley. But but yeah, with Robertson now on the team and being called up probably at some point at the beginning of August, they're gonna go for the closer. And Bednar's probably the more likely of the one, but there's a lot of pitching choices out there. Um, Kyle Finnegan's an option who's on the Nationals.
I think that'd be a good
Maybe
sign, a good
Phillies could
acquisition.
also
But
try to get
I
Caleb Ferguson as well as Bednar.
yeah,
Um,
I don't know if the Nationals would maybe hike up the price because it's in the division, but Finnegan would be a nice ad for them.
mhm. And the Phillies if might try to go towards a left-hander just because they won't have Alvarado in the postseason. But with Strom and Banks, they might decide that's enough.
Any chance they go after Bautista? I don't know what his contract looks like though.
Felix Bautista.
Yeah. I don't know
Well,
if
one,
he's
he's on
under
the IL
control.
now because of shoulder inflammation. That just happened
Yeah.
today. But
He's
he
on
is
a
under
2-2.
he's
Yeah.
on team control. So for a
Yeah.
couple. So I mean, I don't think it would happen in the end. I think the Phillies would be interested. There's a little concern just because he came off of Tommy John this season. So right, it was Tommy John. So um there's always that, but no, Class A is the big prize right now. It's just go see if that's possible, but who knows? Maybe Dombrowski has something else up his sleeve that we aren't aware of. But if his secret is Luis Robert, I may walk through the window.
I will say, per sources, the Phillies are at a minimum like one of the most talked about teams in terms of they're definitely in some phone calls with a
Yeah.
bunch of different people. Like I heard about the O'Neal Cruz stuff this morning. I'm sure that they're in for Class A in some way. Trade Rumors was talking about Dylan Cease. To some
There's
point,
some bozo
I
out there
don't
that's
see
probably
that
going to
one.
say the Phillies have called about Suarez.
I imagine so too. But I mean, the Phillies are at the very least they're in the phone calls. So it's just really of what can they make happen. Kepler shedding Kepler is probably their first thing that they're trying to do in all these calls too. But
Yeah,
we'll see how much
I
I
think you
think
could
take
work
that.
with the Pirates or the Guardians. So
I
it
know.
just the question becomes, do
It's
they
really
want to put their faith in Crawford? And my answer would be yes.
it's really gonna come down to, can they find a team A, dumb enough, or B, desperate enough to get Kepler? The
Or
Pirates, dumb
C,
enough.
just we buy something
Guardians.
else and he's just dumped.
Yeah, no,
Pissed me off yesterday.
but I'm saying, like, for the Phillies, yeah, I know they want to get rid of him. I just don't know from another standpoint, like, you're
No one's gonna want Kepler. Let's
exactly.
be honest. And I don't want
That's what
to
I'm
sound
getting to.
mean,
That's
but
what I'm
no
saying.
one
You got to
wants
be
him.
dumb or desperate, and those two teams might be dumb and desperate. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Like,
but
I
if the
don't
prospect
think it
package
counts
is
as
going to be
dumb
good
or
enough,
desperate.
yeah,
then it's
At
worth
least
it.
in the
That's really the
Guardian
only thing.
situation, since he's a better option than Nolan Jones, so there might be at least some appeal of, all right, we can't do worse than what we got.
yeah, that's true.
Well,
I guess to wrap things up, is there a team that?
Gritty ties, go you.
Well, I actually wasn't going to bring that up, but do you want to talk about the Tigers first before we get into the last thing?
No, I want you to talk about the Tigers because you're
Oh,
their biggest fan who's been
I
not throwing them under the bus, and they're getting their butts whooped again tonight.
know. I don't know what's happening. Maybe my intuition was hitting just a little bit
If
later
your
than usual.
intuition hits and they get to third place, this will be the biggest failure in like baseball history.
I think there's a good chance that they're gonna be in it in some way. We already mentioned the fact that they have so much in the way of prospects that they can kind of go out and get whoever they please.
Just like Josh Naylor. Oh wait,
Yeah. So I just I don't know, and like in a weird way, I know maybe this is just my thinking about it, but like I wonder if like they kind of feel like, all right, we can be a little bit complacent at the deadline just because our division is awful. Um
don't be
and
the Twins.
and
Don't be the
maybe
Twins.
not
Don't be the
overpay
Twins.
and maybe not overpay for guys that are going to be up there like Suarez and stuff. But I don't know. I think that they I I don't know. I think that they're likely to add something. I don't think it's going to be a big name though. I really think they're going to kind of be low um keel, if you will, in this one.
Well,
And
what do you think they're going to look for?
well, that's the other thing too is like I mean, they've had the injury bug a little bit this year, but I think they're looking more for pitching, which is odd again because you looked at their roster going into this year and it's like, well, their pitching is what makes them so great. Um, Maybe somebody to pair with, Scooble at the top, not somebody big, but like I also think there's probably just what most good teams do at the deadline. They're going to try to add to the bullpen. I could I could really even see Bednar going there, which in a selfish way, like it'd be cool to see Bednar in the Phillies because he is a Pennsylvania guy, but I think trading him to the Tigers would make me happier just because we might get a better prospect. So yeah, I think that they probably look at that way. I don't know though. I think they're weird right now because they've been so good and then like recently they've been so bad. So I really don't know what they're gonna do. Like
I
I
thought of
think
someone
they're
else the
shell
Phillies could
shocked.
get. But it's also because I thought of, well, maybe if the Tigers wanted a little bit extra, but not too much. So now I'm bringing the Phillies back into this. So, Bobby, what do you think if the Phillies were to try to get Ryan O'Hearn?
Ooh.
Because O'Hearn, Phillies have, well, first of all, I'm a big proponent where if a GM has done a deal with the team in recent years, they will go back to it. And my main piece of evidence is the Phillies and the Astros, how they did so many deals with them over like 10 years, it felt like, between Hunter Pence, Roy Oswalt, and then trading them Ken Giles. And so the
What?
Phillies
So
last year. So the
why?
idea would be
So
is that
where would
Hearn,
he? Yeah. What's the idea? Is he go to
well, so
first
Hearn
and
can
put Harper
play.
back in the
Well, Hearn
outfield?
can play first base, left field, and DH. He can play the
Okay,
outfield.
he can play left field.
So
I
he is
don't
an
know if
option
you
to
would
play
want him
left
out
field.
there.
Well,
You
and
could
that's
put
where the
Bryce back.
Phillies' point is. Well, that's the thing where it gets interesting. If the Phillies are going with their answer right now is we need better offense, then go with someone who's better offense. I've even heard things toyed around that would the Phillies do a deal for someone and then put Schwarber back in the outfield? The answer is no, but
Do not put Schwarber back in the outfield. We
but
might
there's
see
still that
two
idea
guys
of,
on the bottom
I
of the
see enough
OA charts.
people, but I see enough people talking about the Phillies. They should be doing a move in the outfield. My answer is they're probably not. But I mean, that was someone I was like,
It'd be
kind of
sneaky.
fits a few. He does a few bubbles, a little outside thinking, and you can do a lot of rotating around. You
He's
can
a
put him at first
fucking
sometime if
great
Harper's
bat.
willing to play the outfield, right? You could put him at DH and put Schwarber in the outfield. Um you could put him in left field. Or if the Phillies ended up not trading Kepler, and I mean, depending on if you were gonna do a true split or whatnot or whatever, you could just have O'Hearn.
What's his contract?
He's
2 year
a free
11,
agent
11.
after this year. I think
Yeah.
this is the, or is it? Did he have him for one more year? I thought
Yeah, he
this
is.
was
Okay.
it for his contract.
It always baseball. So whenever I look at contracts, I get a little confused
He's a
sometimes
free agent.
because something that only baseball has compared to every other sport is that they don't have like the season technically starts in 2024 and then switches to 2025. Everything happens in 1 year. Like so when you like hockey starts in October and ends in like June or July. So like usually that's consider the 2024-2025 season. So it says 2025. So I'm thinking, oh, that's current. No, it's not. It's accurate and anyway.
I use baseball reference. Another plugin.
Yeah. I was on Fangraphs. I was on Fangraphs,
Anyway,
which is driving.
But I was thinking about it 'cause I was
it'd be
also
a sneaky
thinking
pick. It would be a very
Tigers,
sneaky pick.
But I was also
I
thinking
would
about the Tigers.
Yeah.
I would probably I'll say this: if we get Ryan O'Hearn, which I'm not going to be mad if that's the play. I would prefer them to put Bryce back at the outfield then, rather than either O'Hearn or Schwarber. To be
I think
honest,
Bryce's
and we
defense
still
is
have to
too
get rid.
valuable to move from first base. I don't think they'll do it. I still feel like what my thinking is they're gonna do Crawford just because Crawford's hitting well.
Fair
and he's
though,
got great defense. So
you also got to offset Harper's defense is so good that honestly putting him left field might be the better answer. To be honest, because. Well, so hear me out. So
no. Move on, Tyler.
Compared to Castellanos, you kind of need someone on the other end that actually isn't a Castellanos, and putting Schwarber out there is basically the equivalent.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I don't know. I always think of Castellanos as a liability defensively. He's really not, but I just feel like
he is.
The Castellanos thing is he makes the plays that he should make. He makes the routine stuff because if you look at his numbers, he doesn't make errors, or if he makes errors, he's made like 2 this year, and those are the only 2 he's made in his entire deal with the Phillies so far. He just does not have range. That's the thing. So the metrics destroy him when it comes to tracking down balls, or his closing speed or whatever. But when he's in his right position and there's a ball he can get to, he'll get to it, and that's it.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, if you get another guy out there who's like not great defensively, it feels like you got to have like friggin' Billy Hamilton playing center field to like cover for those guys. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, that'll be my preference if O'Hearn is going to be the play.
Yeah, I was only saying that because of the Tigers. I was like, oh, but he kind of works for them.
Yeah, it's always.
It can work. I'm not going to be mad at picking up a guy who's batting 281.
Yeah,
and the Phillies hijack episode is hijack the trade deadline. It's official.
Sorry, didn't we literally say in that episode that was going to happen too?
Yeah,
we literally said that was going to happen. Anyway, go on, Ty.
Last thing I just want to talk about is: do you have a team that's a surprise team for you that think could be more active at the deadline, adding or subtracting? Um,
Cincinnati Reds.
ooh, that was
And
gonna.
I'm not just saying that because they're our team. They're a weird team to me where they're a couple games, they've been hovering a few games over 500, and it at least seems like they have the mindset that we can compete or we are ready to compete. They're still just unlucky, I guess, per se, because if you look at certain metrics, it kind of feels like the record should be a few games better than it is. So they're a weird team where I feel like they could make some interesting trades to try to better the team. Will they work? Who knows? They might be really dumb trades, but they're meant for good reasons. But
Yeah.
they're my sneaky team.
So they were potentially in rumors for Suarez, and that I don't know if I buy just
Yeah.
because, yeah, and I don't know. It's like, would they really pay for a guy who's like would probably be a rental for them for a year? Like, I mean, they are in it this year, but they can continue to get better. They're still so young. My team is YF2, and I was actually hoping that I would set you up for this, based on what we were talking about pre-show. But my two teams are actually more on the subtracting side. My actual team I was going to talk about is the Twins, but I also
Oh.
want to mention the Braves because
I thought you were gonna
that
say Orioles as one of them.
no, the Braves I want to talk about. I think the Twins are finally coming to a realization that it's not working. I think there's a couple of guys that they have as that are on expiring deals that I actually think they are going to move on from. For a while they were a team that's been so complacent, but I think they're going to surprise some people in the fact that they're going to be bigger sellers than people think. And I
Yeah, I
also
thought
think
they would do nothing. I literally,
yeah.
and I quote, wrote in my notes. Hold on, they're at the very bottom. Twins will do what they do best, and that is doing absolutely fucking nothing. That's my note.
um and I think from the Braves side, they're gonna be cautious again
I have an
because
interesting. All right, then I have a proposal thing for you when you talk about the Braves. But if you
well,
have something else you need to say about them, say it now
well,
because
all I was
I'll ask
gonna
my
say
question.
is
I have a question
I think that the Braves still think that they can be a contender
next year.
next year. But so it's like, how much are they actually gonna subtract? But do they? I don't know. What's your question?
Do you think the Braves should or will trade Ozzy Albies? Ozzy Albies is in a weird situation because after this year, he has like two or three team options, which are
Yeah.
very team friendly, but he has also not really been a reliable player. He's had years where he's been a fantastic offensive force, but he's had also as many, if not more, years where he's either underperformed or been hurt for a substantial amount of time. And I think if the Braves want to try to change anything minorly to get them back on track as a whole offensively in the future, he's the first person I look at besides Michael Harrison center field. His defense is amazing.
It's so tough because he's on such a team friendly deal that so he's currently only making 5 mil a year, or sorry, or 7 mil. Sorry, it was 5 mil to Luxury Tech. But he has two club options, both for 7 mil again. So it's one of the things where he's been underperforming, and maybe for that reason you want to move on from him. But he has potential to be an above average player, and at 7 mil, that's very intriguing. That would be my only thing. Um, Outside of that, though, where else do they really go? I guess is the question. If they are going to tinker with the lineup going in the next year, I think it's probably more than likely that he stays. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like I feel like he was somebody I thought about when I was like kind of bringing it up. But now looking at that contract, I like it a lot. So maybe
But it's
they.
just a weird situation where I mean, I don't think any of us on this podcast thought the Braves would do the exact same thing offensively last year again this year and continue to do it even after Acuna got back. And Acuna has been fantastic. Yet they have
Do
done the
you
exact same
actually
thing.
believe that they can bounce back next year? Because like I always was on the Braves train of like until they prove me otherwise. Well, they're starting to prove me otherwise. And like, I'm not so sure now.
So the reason I think their record is as bad as it is their pitching as a whole has taken a massive hit this year, especially injury wise. And so regardless of the offense still doing what it did last year, they weren't really destined to be what the caliber they had been in recent years. But the fact that even when they had a healthy Sale and whatnot, it seemed like the Braves offense should have still done better to the point that they wouldn't have been looking at constantly being under 500. And they're a weird team to try to look at because the first thing you would think of with a group that's been together as long as it feels like their core has been is, oh, they're aging. But when you look at the ages, they're
Yeah.
like upper 20s. Like some of them are just beginning to, if not next year, the year after that, entering 30 because the Braves signed so many of them on such team-friendly long-term deals young. But we're at a point now where I almost want to say a couple years ago in the postseason, after I think it was the first time the Phillies beat the Braves in the National League Division Series, so 2022, there was like some article or something somewhere that was saying why they thought the Phillies beat the Braves, and it was because the Phillies bullpen or Phillies pitching as a whole was averaging over 95 miles an hour with their fastball, and the Braves offense on those types of pitches was really bad. And 2022 was their like offensive defining year where they broke records and whatnot, and everyone was
Yeah.
doing fantastic. Part of me is wondering if just their hitters are not catching up with the times, where as the velocity keeps getting faster and faster, even if it's only by 0.2 miles per hour per season, they're just not being able to stick with it, and it's showing in some of their players. I think offensively the team will do. I'm still going to say they're going to do a little better, I would think, next year, but I'm now at the point where if there is any hope that you might get multiple players doing something similar to what they did in 2022, I'm going to say no. I think you got to dial back expectations now, especially for like Riley and Olson. Not to
Yeah.
say that they aren't effective numbers, but like instead of expecting maybe 45 plus home runs for Olson, you got to expect around 30. Instead of Riley batting 280, 290 with 35 home runs, maybe it's upper 20s and he's down to like 260, 270. So you just got to dial back expectations. And the Braves don't have a system anymore. They've been productive for so long that they don't really have. They finally feel like, to me, they've reached the edge when
Yeah.
it comes to who they can call up now. And the guys that they like that they've called up are hurt.
It's also weird too. I
So
literally forgot that they had Profar.
they have Profar.
Azuna's
Smith
on the
Shawver
last
was
year.
huge, was a big
Yeah.
guy for them for the future. Now he has Tommy John or whatever.
Yeah.
Like the Braves to me are going to have to buy their way out of the issues. And Anthopoulos to me as a buyer has never been a great buyer. He's
Yeah.
been great with keeping the core together and kind of really to me starting that trend. And he's made some. I think the Olsen deal is good. I still think they should have re-signed Freeman though, even before this whole hindsight thing.
Yeah.
Um, the Murphy deal to me always looked dumb because I didn't understand it at the time, given who they had on the team, and then they brought him in. So, and then Anthopoulos has always been someone that has kind of dumped a lot of money on a pitcher that really seemed like they didn't need that much early in the offseason just to guarantee they have their fifth guy. But then they had a good rotation outside of that. I just think now um, pitchers they have are very injury prone and or getting older, and now they're at a point where they have to buy their way out of their situation, and I don't think they'll be able to, and I don't think the minors can answer the issues that they have. So I'm going to say they're probably going to be middle of the pack, and they even could be risking being that one team in the East that falls out if surprisingly the Marlins or the Marlins or the Nationals take that next step.
I think so Azuna is on the last year of his deal and he's
Yeah.
having a down year, but I think he might get moved to a team, but I don't know. We'll have to see.
Mets.
Yeah, we'll have to see. There's going to be a lot of things happening. We will be potentially, hopefully, depending on when deals break, doing videos about all the stuff. that's going on, but it was cool to have one of the bigger fish get dealt as we are recording. But yeah, that is all for us here with our trade deadline extravaganza, if you will. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow us at BL_breakdowns. Big League breakdowns everywhere else. Make sure to like the video if you liked it. Subscribe to the channel for more baseball content, and we will see you next time.
Also, listen to us on Spotify.